calling the joint info briefing to order, Committee on Ways and Means and Committee on Agriculture and the Environment. So today we'll hear from the Department of Agriculture, who will present their upcoming biennium budget. So good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the Joint Committee. My name is Phyllis Shimabukuro Geyser. I'm the chairperson for the Department of Agriculture, and I'd like to present our budget for the 2022 to 2023 biennium. So, Senator Chair Dela Cruz, I'm going to follow according to
and you can just summarize as much as you can.
Okay. So the mission of the department is to further expand the role of Hawaii's agricultural industry to benefit the well-being of our island society by diversifying the economy, protecting resources important for agriculture production, and gaining greater self-sufficiency in food production. The department has many varied responsibilities, including establishing and maintaining irrigation systems, managing agricultural lands, marketing and business development, preventing the entry of invasive species into the state, pest and disease control and eradication, maintaining healthy livestock industries, rabies prevention, and food safety and quality assurance programs. The department is continuing to move forward as an advocate for all agriculture, using available resources to aid the agriculture and aquaculture industries in becoming an integral part of the state's economy. The department held virtual stakeholder meetings on its strategic plan during August and September of last year. The department laid out its priority actions developed by the department's 6 divisions and the Agribusiness Development Corporation, and gathered input from Hawaii's farmers, ranchers, and growers to provide their perspective in the future of Hawaii's food system. There were approximately 119 participants from the agriculture stakeholder group. Previously, in 2019, we had our first rollout of the plan at the Hawaii Ag Conference, and that was attended by 119 participants in person. So we heard from a total of 237 stakeholders from our industry. The department's strategic plan includes strategic objectives, goals, and performance metrics. Priority actions in the plan are currently being implemented or are planned to be implemented by 2025. The plan contains information on how the department's budget requests contribute to accomplishing the agency's priorities. The department is continuing to work on this strategic plan. The coronavirus epidemic has affected operations broadly across the department in terms of curtailing field visits, limiting staff's exposure to the public, shifting to online forms of communication, purchasing additional equipment, supplies for barriers, physical separation, sanitizing, disinfecting facilities. The pandemic has created severe challenges for operations at the airport animal quarantine holding facility at the Daniel K. Inouye International Airport in Honolulu. The SARS-CoV-2 COVID-19 related isolation, quarantine, and contact forced the airport animal quarantine holding facility to close the midnight to 8 a.m. shift when insufficient staffing was not available. Additional overtime costs were also resulted to cover shifts. Travel restrictions have limited and continue to limit the ability of the plant industry division to move staff inter-island in a timely manner in response to fluctuating workflows. For example, the discovery of a new pest. This has impacted the timeliness of invasive species responses. The hiring restrictions put into place around April 3rd, 2020, had a negative impact on the department's ability to replace key staff. At that time, on April 3rd, we had 41 active recruitments in process. This has resulted in pressure on existing staff to resume more duties and/or a higher workload, so as not to decrease or eliminate some public services. Significant accomplishments of the various programs include for land and water, Agricultural Resource Management Division continues to maintain and develop irrigation systems for farmers on Oahu, Molokai, and Hawaii. We've done repairs and improvements on stream intakes, bridges, catwalks for Molokai. We've also done work that brings water from Waikolu Valley and is conveyed to the Kualapu'u Reservoir, which provides water to 9,725 acres of ag land on the Molokai. We're beginning the construction of capital improvements of irrigation and water delivery systems that will assist small farmers in East Maui area. We continue to work with Department of Land and Natural Resources and the ag industry to facilitate the set aside and transfer of additional agricultural lands from DLNR to Department of Ag. Act 90 established a non-agricultural park lands program under which certain public lands classified for ag use would be transferred to Department of Agriculture for management purposes. DLNR and Department of Ag staff continue to meet at a minimum on a monthly basis to review various ag land parcels for possible transfer. Additionally, our property managers have performed due diligence activities by reviewing DLNR lease files for compliance issues and performing site inspections. For the vacant parcels proposed for transfer, this division performed site inspections to assess agricultural feasibility of the parcels. We continue to develop and manage agricultural land resources, including 6 new long-term leases for vacant lands on the island of Oahu, Kauai, and Hawaii, totaling approximately 50 acres. The character of the use of this land includes production of ulu, avocado, Hawaiian oranges, lemons, sweet potatoes, papaya, bananas, tangelos, figs, mulberry, dragon fruit, and various ornamental plants. In addition, our division acquired 7 vacant parcels for pasture use on Maui, totaling approximately 590 acres for lease, and are in the process of obtaining individual appraisal reports that will determine the annual base rent to set the minimum upset rental values. We also acquired 5 general leases for management on the island of Kauai and Oahu, totaling approximately 29 acres. We also support critical agriculture infrastructure for the certified livestock slaughterhouse facility on Oahu. ADC, we also have continued support for the Ulu Producers Cooperative, the lessee of the state-owned Honalu Marshalling Yard on the island of Hawaii in their successful bid for grant funding. The funds will be used to significantly expand the capacity of 5,200 square foot warehouse facility by allowing for upgrades to the existing improvements, including installation of an 800 square foot walk-in freezer, thereby quadrupling the amount of freezer storage space for local produce. We've completed draft preliminary engineering reports that defines the engineering elements and costs associated with the proposed facility upgrades and the roadmap to complete the upgrades. Once we finalize the engineering report, we'll proceed to design the proposed facility. This facility is an ag hub serving over 100 small-scale diversified farmers throughout the state. The Ulu Producers Cooperative aggregates approximately 150,000 pounds of ulu and plans to expand their facility to enable the co-op to serve and distribute produce to Hawaii's public schools, hospitals, restaurants, hotels, and value-added processors on all major islands. Also on Hawaii Island, we are completing construction of a photovoltaic system on the Kamuela vacuum cooling plant. The energy costs to run the refrigeration units and cooling chambers are a burden to the co-op farmers. The project includes the construction of a 65 kW energy system with backup batteries on a new carport structure. Connected to the grid, and electrical cost savings for the co-op are anticipated. We are also assisting the co-op by constructing recommended improvements for Federal Food Safety Modernization Act compliance as developed in their master plan and feasibility study. The Agribusiness Development Corporation, ADC, continues to acquire and develop and manage select high-value agricultural lands, water systems, and infrastructure. In the Galbraith area on Oahu, ADC completed construction of 2 reservoirs with respective capacities of 3 million and 10 million gallons, initiated plans and design for a transmission line and lake intake pump system to use recycled water and surface water for irrigation purposes and minimize the strain on fresh drinking water resources as agricultural production and water use increases in the region. Additionally, ADC initiated plans to acquire and connect an additional deep well to the Galbraith irrigation system to increase water security. ADC has initiated construction of a 50 million gallon reservoir to increase water storage capacity and water security in the Waihole water system. ADC also continues plans and design for a deep well to provide backup water resource should the Waihole water system become inoperable, and made improvements to the ditch system to improve efficiency. On Kauai in Kekaha, ADC reached an agreement with the health department to discharge water into the ocean pursuant to specific water quality standards. ADC's continued development of land in both Whitmore and Galbraith on Oahu includes efforts to address criminal activity on vacant lands and establish gates and fencing, clearing land, and removing abandoned vehicles and other rubbish from the properties. Farmer selection for vacant lands continues in both areas, and over 1,000 acres of Galbraith area are currently in production. The farmers are required to submit an approved conservation plan and meet current food safety and good agricultural practice criteria. In Kalepa on Kauai, ADC initiated pilot crop and cattle rotation programs among 2 tenants to share the land and enrich the soil and pasture quality. Supporting farmers and developing agricultural markets, the department worked quickly to provide relief to local farmers and ranchers during the days of the COVID pandemic. Led by the Market Development Branch, with additional funding from Ulupono Initiative, the department implemented the COVID-19 Emergency Farmer Relief Program, distributing 203 grants totaling $470,495. The grants range in amounts of $2,000, $4,000, and $10,000 in response to decreased demand from restaurants, hotels, and caterers to bring some financial stability to farmers, ranchers, producers, and nonprofits. The remainder of the funds, besides the $20,000 from Ulupono, came from our barrel tax fund or special fund or the Agricultural Development and Food Security Special Fund. In the calendar year of 2020, our ag loan program provided 29 ag loans totaling over $5 million. Among the loans distributed or dispersed were loans to purchase an existing dairy operation to ensure continued fresh milk supply on Hawaii Island, 18 emergency loans to help operators recover from the economic impacts of the virus, and the first ever ag innovation loan for purchase of commercial drone to conduct agriculture spraying of crops. The drone will spray Botanigard ES, a fungus used to control the coffee berry borer in coffee orchards. Agricultural Development Division administered the USDA Specialty Crop Block Grant, awarding $454,042 in USDA funding to 14 proposals which enhance the competitiveness of Hawaii specialty crops. We contracted with the Food Basket to provide $500,000 of CARES Act funding with the support of Governor Ige to implement and administer the COVID-19 response program. This program provides a dollar-for-dollar match to the SNAP or Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program recipients statewide for purchases of locally grown fruits, vegetables, local ground beef, local seafood, and/or local eggs, up to a maximum of $50 per day per household at participating USDA Food and Nutrition Service approved retail outlets. The division is working with the Food Basket to ensure that the funds are expended by December 2020 deadline, and I can say that it was. And we're also reporting to the Office of Federal Awards Management. The ADD also administers the Micro Grants for Food Security Program, which is a federal program awarding the department $1.9 million to increase the quantity and quality of locally produced food in food insecure communities. The grant is not connected to the CARES Act and was established under the 2018 Farm Bill to provide support for small-scale gardening, herding, and livestock operations. The department funded the promotion of local products to the Seal of Quality program aired on Hawaii News Now. Those spots are aired about 300 times and over 2.5 million impressions. The segments also attracted new applicants to the program, resulting in an 80% increase in program enrollment compared to a year ago. Notable new enrollees include Mahipono and Wailua Estate Chocolate. We're working on a similar effort aimed at the Japanese market, which will reach over 13.9 million households. The Ag Development Division continues to reestablish and strengthen the Market Analysis News Branch. During the COVID-19 emergency, this branch conducted emergency surveys to determine the extent of financial losses, production disruption, farm labor, and market changes incurred by local farmers, ranchers, operators, commodity groups after community lockdown was imposed in April 2020. Results were utilized in the department's successful effort to include coffee, macadamia nuts, tea, floriculture, nursery, aquaculture, and other specialty crops under the federal Coronavirus Financial Assistance Program, referred to as CFAP. administered by the USDA. Local agriculturists have received over $34 million from CFAP reimbursements as of December 20th, 2020. The Analysis News Branch also released innovative statistic analysis and reports on select agricultural commodities that are grown locally and other agricultural-related issues. On the invasive species and the environment, the Plant Quarantine Branch maintains an average of over 98% inspection rate of all aircraft, sea vessels, and associated cargo from Guam and other areas known to have the brown tree snake. No snakes were intercepted. The function is still ongoing. We also were able to renew the master permit QC 650 with California Department of Food and Ag, maintaining Hawaii's nursery industry's ability to export compliant plant materials to California and other areas in the U.S. mainland. The 2020 Christmas tree season resulted in 154 containers of Christmas trees imported due to ongoing compliance agreement that requires best management practices and phytosanitary certification in Oregon and Washington state ag departments. Only 12 out of the 154 containers required additional inspection upon arrival in Hawaii, resulting in a 92% compliance. The Plant Quarantine Branch is finalizing the replacement of the outdated Invicta database. Coffee leaf rust is the most devastating disease of coffee globally. The disease was first detected in Hawaii during October of 2020. The department has launched a statewide multi-agency program, including the University of Hawaii, U.S. Department of Agriculture, to respond. Maui and Hawaii Islands are infested. While coffee leaf rust requires very specific environmental conditions for disease expression, its airborne ability to spread poses a significant threat everywhere. So visual surveys continues on all islands and counties. On the onset of the detection of the rust on Maui, information was immediately sent to the coffee industry and stakeholders. Outreach materials have been developed and distributed to the public and the industry. A rapid response group organized by our plant industry division has been meeting regularly with university, with USDA APHIS, PPQ, and ARS on calls. The University of Hawaii Extension has developed control options for the farmers. Hawaii has enacted an interim rule to restrict inter-island movement of coffee plants, parts, including green beans and used coffee packing and harvesting or transportation equipment from areas that the rust is prevalent, except by permit. The rule went into effect on November 20th, 2020, and will be in effect for 1 year. The department subsequently will be going through the normal rulemaking process to create permanent restrictions. We continue to lead a multi-agency effort to control coconut rhinoceros beetle on Oahu. The primary focus has shifted from the Navy lands to the Waiawa area, where the department is organizing a concerted effort with the primary landowners, including Kamehameha Schools, the University of Hawaii, and the City and County of Honolulu. $1.43 million have been allocated to the University of Hawaii for this work. A detector dog program has been successfully created, and the response has been tracking additional breeding sites in the Mililani area as the beetle appears to be moving north and west from the infested areas of the Pearl City Peninsula. Positive gains have been made in the Iroquois Point area as new control methodologies are integrated into the response system. We're working with the Hawaii Ant Lab to coordinate monitoring and controlling the effects of little fire ant. The Ant Lab has expanded its operations to include additional employees who are responsible for monitoring nurseries, past inspection locations, and conducting surveys and treatments in commercial and residential areas. The pesticides branch funded the third year of Together We Farm pesticide training outreach through West Oahu Soil and Water Conservation District. This program, while available to all farmers, has a strong emphasis on reaching farmers with limited English proficiency. So we did fund the Conservation District to do translations in multiple languages for farmers. Our Animal Industry Division continues to be engaged in cooperative agreements between this department and USDA, APHIS, and the veterinary services. We have maintained the state's disease-free status for animal diseases of high consequence in livestock and domestic animals to animal health and public health. We continue to pursue federal funds, such as funding through the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Plant Health Inspection Service, Rural Development Program, Farm Service Agency, Natural Resource Service, Sustainable Ag Research and Education, Department of the Interior, USDA Food and Drug Administration. And the funding amounts vary from year to year, but the core functions of the department are not dependent solely on federal funds. This year's budget request reduces our general fund appropriation by $1,059,704 in fiscal year 22, and approximately $1.86 million in fiscal year 23. A large portion of these reductions are the result of changing the means of funding of positions from general fund to special and revolving funds. Conversion of these positions will provide general fund savings with minimum impact on day-to-day operations. The major request, operating request, is for $800,000 in general funds, which will allow for the expenditure of funds that the department obtained from a settlement of a pesticide use violation for the creation of a pesticide disposal program that was a condition for the receipt of the award of the settlement funds. The settlement funds were deposited in the general treasury of the state in the last fiscal year. The deletion of 42 permanent vacant positions that were unfunded in the budget is also being requested. And we also asked to use general fund savings to fund 5 key critical positions. Capital improvement program includes funding for renovating our airport animal quarantine holding facility, improvements to the lower Hamakua ditch, improvements to the Kamuela vacuum cooling plant, and Waimea irrigation system improvements, and other agricultural infrastructure improvements for ADC and our Ag Resource Management Division. I neglected to let the members of both committees know that all of our division administrators and branch managers are available and participating during this virtual hearing. And they'll be available to answer any questions. One of the questions that was posed by the committee was to identify who our customers are. And besides the agricultural stakeholders, our divisions also provide information and service to residents, community colleges, small businesses, students, and faculty of the academic sector. how are we currently meeting our goal, our mission, and our functions? We have shifted this fiscal year to recruiting our vacant non-general fund positions. We currently have received approval from Governor to fill 8 positions, and we have an additional 11 in the queue waiting to be approved. What are the major lessons learned during the pandemic that more effectively meets the mission or improves the performance? We learned that some of our employees can effectively telework for most of the week, but due to our mission, in-person presence is required for site and property inspections. Our employees learned that they have to be flexible and take advantage of technology to meet their division's missions. They learned a lot about facilitating activities to a virtual platform. And due to the time of uncertainty during this pandemic, they recognized that quick action, quality control, and goal-centered tasks are required to support and provide service with continuity of business. The pesticides branch learned the importance of proper use, education, and outreach for disinfectants by essential service providers. And our employees also improved their use of PPE and alternative inspection procedures without delaying any services and while protecting staff and the customers. We had staff training to provide broader service on their respective islands and modifying inspections process for quicker response. We learned multi-agency response requires better organization, timely guidance, and organization improves unified response and consistency across agencies. What we also learned is that to the question of structural or budgetary shifts, how this will support being more efficient. We learned that there is a need for us to get more video conferencing hardware, laptops for our employees. And also that not a budgetary shift, but an approach shift on how we deal and provide service to our public, that we have to shift from initially counseling and helping farms to survive to now adapting what appears to be a longer-term change in markets and demands. We need to continue to and improve to connect the farmer, rancher, producer to resources that they are seeking. We have to let them know what the county-based assets are. And we have to have dedicated long-term funds that are currently offset by special and federal funds. Our concern is that whether we can have enough funding to cover the cost of PPE for public and staff safety while not reducing services. And I think that's it for now. I'm open to answer any questions, and I have my staff here also.
Members, questions? On Zoom? Any of the members have questions?
Yeah, Chair, I got some questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's see. Thank you, Director. What does the department expect to receive in terms of their second round of federal COVID stimulus to assist the farmers?
Right now, we're not certain what will come specifically to the state levels. we are in continued communication with the congressional delegation, and then also the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture to get quick information of what opportunities there are for state departments of agriculture or for agriculture in general. I understand that we got an alert that additional funds for CFAP, the Coronavirus Food Assistance Program, might be forthcoming, and if sometime soon farmers will be able to reapply again, and we have heard but not received any confirmation that that would extend the Coronavirus Food Assistance Program through April, but we haven't gotten any confirmation.
And Director, how does the barrel tax, for ag development and food security, how does the barrel tax and other special funds contribute to your mission in supporting the ag sector of the economy?
Right now, we get, for our agricultural development and food security special fund, which is our portion of the barrel tax, 15 cents of whatever is collected. And that gives us $3.85 million in revenue each year. We use that to provide grants to farmers for ag production or processing activity. We use it to acquire real property for agriculture production or processing. We also use it for the improvement of our irrigation systems, transportation networks necessary to promote ag production, and then we can use it for purchasing equipment. We fund research and development and testing of ag products and markets. We use it to also fund our inspector positions within the department, and a big part of our promotion and marketing of local products comes from the barrel tax fund. So our industry, our stakeholders come to the department for grants or opportunities to promote their products, organize their annual meetings or conferences so that they can gather and share information. And also, it's a big part of what we are able to fulfill in our mission, because our portion of the general fund of the state is very small.
Yes, I know. It seems, with our depressed economic environment that we're now living in, it seems like CIP is the way to go. What do you consider your top 3 CIP asks for the upcoming biennium?
So our top 3 asks in CIP is for agriculture infrastructure improvements done for ADC. Jimmy Nakatani is here to answer specific questions about that, but that's for continued water infrastructure that's needed to provide water to the lands managed by ADC. Majority of the lands that ADC has acquired, thank you to the legislature, did not come with water infrastructure. Another second priority is improvements to our animal quarantine facility at the airport. Because we've made great gains in rabies vaccinations and immunization, vast majority, over 90% of the companion pet animals that come through the state are eligible for release after inspection at the airport. And so there's been a big shift from quarantining animals in our Halawa station to allowing them, based on their vaccination documentation, to be released at the airport after inspection. And so we need additional space. We have space now, but we need to continue improving that additional space to accommodate that service, because the airlines do not have the ability to store animals overnight. And so there's been a significant increase in us handling companion animals entering into our state and maintaining our own. We're the only state in the nation that has a negative status for rabies. Our third priority is for the Lower Hamakua Ditch watershed project.
And when do you expect to have the strategic plan completed?
The strategic plan is the internal plan for the department. It's a living document. We started off with the focus on, increasing, doubling food production, and then also addressing the requirements of Act 151 that was passed by the legislature in session 2019. And then the pandemic hit. And so what we had developed strategically was before the COVID-19. And so when we had our stakeholder meetings in August and September, what we were hearing from the farmers, ranchers, and non-food producers, the overwhelming message to us is they wanted to know how they could get assistance, financial assistance, to stay in business. And so that's why we're focusing on those priority actions that we can help them with food safety requirements, get them information for opportunities for non-general fund grants, the CFAP, and the other coronavirus-related federal relief has been has had a big positive impact to our agricultural producers to be able to continue to grow and market. They went from a 40 to 60% decrease in their markets, and through this food assistance program where they have Farm to Food Bank, they have the Bridges program on Hawai'i Island, and then they also have Farm to Car and other types of food assistance. The farmers are able to sell their produce or their meat or their eggs through these programs, and actually offsets some of the losses due to the closure of the hospitality and food service industry. So they continue to rely on those types of assistance, and they've actually done better than we anticipated. They've been consistently resilient, I should say.
Yeah. Given that the farmers are considered essential workers, when do you anticipate that they'll be able to get their vaccines? You got any word on that?
There was a communication from the federal level that the agricultural sector is considered essential. So I think the workforce might qualify for the Tier 1C. Some that are considered critical and essential might be eligible in Tier 1B, but we're waiting for more details.
And what's the current balance of your ag loan program special fund? Are you going to be able to continue awarding a substantial amount of ag loans going forward?
I will have to defer to Dean Matsukawa, our ag loan administrator. I think it's a question of our ceiling and how much, we can expend the rest of the fiscal year. But I believe we're running, because of the ceiling, below $500,000. But I would like to call Dean Matsukawa forward to answer that question.
Just make sure he
Good
takes his
afternoon,
video. Oh, yeah.
Dean Matsukawa, Administrator, Ag Loan. Currently in our fund, we have 3.8 million available right now, and we have about $500,000 available for the rest of the current fiscal year.
Okay. And just thank you, Chair, for your note. Two last things. One is last session there was Senate Bill 2715, Director, which instructed your department to develop rules related to the care of farm animals, primarily cattle transported inter-island and interstate. And of course, that was after the number of cattle suffocated on a barge from Oahu to Hawaii. So the bill was deferred, and it was contingent on your commitment to develop such rules within 2 years. So what is the status of those rules now?
I would defer to our state veterinarian, Dr. Isaac Maeda. I anticipate, I'd like to call Dr. Maeda forward, but I anticipate that due to the pandemic, everything has been pushed back, delayed. But I would defer to him to give an update on the rulemaking process. I know that we have been in communication with our deputy AGs because certain rules require a different means of how we conduct our public hearing review for rule changes. I don't know if anything specific might apply to animal industry's rules. Can Dr. Maeda, can you come forward?
Sure. Good afternoon. Isaac Maeda from Animal Industry Administration. We are still in the drafting stages of this. Chair Shimabukuro Geyser is correct that we're in the process of getting those drafts started, and then the pandemic kind of really put a hold on a lot of those activities as we have to deal with just trying to manage day-to-day operations and our other types of duties that we were doing. As far as the 2-year commitment to the rule change, it's getting kind of tight on that because I think we basically spent, nearly a year in this pandemic. So whether or not we can get it done within the following year that's coming up, that's going to be a little tight. It may be delayed a little bit from there, but we are working on it. We haven't neglected or forgotten about that mission.
Great. I appreciate you keeping me in the loop on that because I've had some inquiries from the community about that. So thank you, Chair. Thank you, Director, for your help.
Sure.
Senator Taniguchi.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New
everybody.
Year.
I was just wondering what, when you're developing your, strategic plan and getting input, what were some of the criteria you used to develop those priorities that you have?
So we started off originally pre-COVID about the mission to increase food security and what we needed to do to double food production by 2030, according to Act 151. We're also mindful of Governor Ige's goal of 2020. But, you know, as we all experienced in 2018, agriculture was greatly affected by lava disaster on the Big Island. And then there was flood damage on Kauai, on Oahu, in the Waimanalo area especially, and also on Maui and on this island in Waianae, we had fire problems. So we moved forward in the beginning of 2019 with that focus of, you know, what kind of priority actions do we need to do that we can do now that we have before us, what we can do in 5 years, and what we can do by 2030 to increase food security. So that those goals that all the divisions and their priority actions were centered on that focus.
I see. I guess my question then would be, I guess, that it would seem that in looking at just generally the priorities and how you set it up, that it was more like, I guess there's a lot of emphasis maybe on survival, like drone programs and things, and food production, encouraging food production. But I think looking at the bottom end of the priority list, it seems as if the regulatory side was not as, you know, was more toward the bottom. So I was just wondering if you'd want to comment on that.
On the regulatory side, we were looking at how we can improve on supporting our industry with meeting federal requirements to use pesticides safely. Also, how to work on a disposal program, which is also a public health program. That was one of our priorities. We were also looking at, on the animal industry side, we're looking at a way to have better diagnostic service for diseases, and, you know, perform diagnostic services that is currently leaving the state. We had made some infrastructure improvements to our veterinary lab in Halava, which now allows us to provide more tests. And, you know, by doing that, we can collect fees and generate revenue for the state, and then also provide the industry and the public quicker lab results that, you know, currently are being shipped. Samples are being shipped out of state. The other thing is, on the regulatory side, you know, we're so centered on food and the environment, and I think another part that is really important is in the latter part of 2019, we're finally able to hire back statisticians that we lost in the last rift. And so I think having that analysis part of our department, you know, building, we're able to collect all sorts of data now regarding agriculture, and then, you know, provide more information. So on the regulatory side, I think our pesticides program is assisting, you know, not only for agriculture, but on the public health side. we're held in high regard by Region 9 of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency for helping, assisting them in, any kind of suspicious investigations regarding non-ag, issues. And yeah, those are the things that come to mind right now.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Senator Kidani?
She's muted. Yeah.
Thank you. I was looking at some of the notes regarding the Ag Resource Management Division and noted on the 6 long-term leases on Oahu, Hawaii, and Hawaii Island for ag products, as well as the 7 plots on Maui for pasture lands. Where are they located and how many farmers are working these leases?
I'd like to call Brian Cowell from Division Administrator, or Linda Murai, our Ag Land Program Acting Manager. If they, you can identify the location of those parcels and answer Senator Kidani's questions.
This is Brian Cowell, Administrator, Ag Resource Management. I don't have the exact locations, but we can get that to you.
Okay, also how many farmers are working each parcel?
Oh, okay, we'll try and get that to you. I'm not sure if we can get that, but we will ask.
Thank you. Also on the, you noted that you offer support to producers through the feedlot, slaughterhouse, and ag hub with the Ulu Producers Co-op. Are there any other things that you are doing to support processing of our ag products to create exportable and value-added products, as well as to reach our goal of food sustainability?
We also are involved in trade missions. Our marketing branch, we participate in either going to Asia, the down under, and parts of the continental United States. We bring farmers or food producers, processors to these shows, and then we also host those countries with their contingents to come and see what we have here locally. I will call Sharon Hurd forward to answer that question.
So if I can just make sure that everyone from the department puts their video on when they answer the question,
yes.
please.
Yeah, can you, you were advised to have your camera on if you do have a camera, so that the senators can see you when you speak.
Okay. Senator Kidani, regarding the how we're helping to process the retail sector, the chair is correct. We do have federal funds as well as some low state funds that support export activities, and that's provided through the Farm Bill, the Market Access Program. The COVID-19, we like to do things in person because a product is very sensory, the sight, the smell, the taste, the feel, but we've had to pivot to a virtual platform, and that has been difficult for a food product, but we were successful in doing a gift promotion with Taiwan buyers, and we had 5 Hawaii companies participate. They were all very, very, very happy. And we also did a virtual trade show with the Canadian liquor buyers. It was a Canadian liquor trade show, and we had one of our companies, Koloa Rum, participate, and they did really, they put so much effort into their presentation, it really showed. And I haven't been able to confirm. Karen Sir, one of our economic development specialists, was the manager for that particular activity. I'm not able to confirm that as a result of that, activity. Kahlua Rum is now shipping product, one container from what I understand, to Europe. So it's difficult to say if the virtual platform is going to be successful for marketing, food products, because as I said, taste and smell and feel is so much a part of that. But we're having a lot of help from the federal government. The state trade export promotion program has given us funding to attend trade shows. And let me take this opportunity to say that right now, Gulf Food in Dubai, Chair has been briefed on this, they're still going forward with their Middle East show. But I understand that because they only produce 5% or less of what they have to eat, or what they eat, because of the nature of their lands. So they're going forward, and we're hoping to get some kind of participation from Hawaii to go in February, and we'll see what happens. So yes, we are doing our part for the value-added producer segment, but it's been tough with COVID.
I understand that and I appreciate that, but I guess to give the legislators a better idea of how we're doing, if we could have a report on the countries that we're dealing with, the farmers that we are, or the businesses we are dealing with, and the types of products that have been successful, and also where we are as far as meeting our goal of food sustainability, I think would be something that I'd be interested in knowing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I have another question, Phyllis, if you don't mind.
Sure, Senator.
So, the Department of Ag is supporting, working with Department of Education for the Farm to School program. Is that still ongoing? And do you have any comments as to where we are, as far as meeting the school needs and having the farmers, getting the farmers on board to produce what the schools are going to need?
Thank you for the question. Yes, what happened was a lot has changed because right now Dexter Kishida is no longer with DOE, and he was our contact with the school lunch program with DOE. However, we are in the process of getting inquiries from our farmers. We recently posted a link to have farmers that are interested in selling to through Farm to State to provide us information in this interest or inquiry form. We're going to gather the information. It's been kind of slow on the response because around the holidays, but we intend to start sending out the farmer interest information that we received from the fall of last year till now to DOE, to HHSC, and then also to PSD. For your information, we did assist with moving product that was potentially going to be dumped in March when the farmers market shut down. So we used our market development staff and chair's office to connect farmers that were distressed because they couldn't move their products to the farmers market. And we worked really well with public safety at that time that was able to negotiate with the individual farmers on surplus that they had because they didn't have that market at the farmers markets. And we were able to move up maybe 4 different types of commodities. So that's what we've been doing. We've been trying to keep in touch, but Dexter left, and we're gonna stay relevant by sending out that information of what we've received so far. I know that we've.
So are you saying you don't have a point person for DOE yet since Dexter left?
We have been, when Dexter left, we were keeping in contact with Albert Scales, but he also left the end of December, I think. And so right now, we're going to be working through Randy Tanaka.
Okay, and then, you know, just to put in a plug for Kauai, what they're doing there has been very successful. So we don't really have to, you know, reinvent the wheel, but, you know, get all the players working together. But I'm glad to hear that you are also working with the farmers to find out the crops that they have and what they can produce, so that, you know, we will know who to tap or what, and hopefully we'll be doing it by districts so everyone gets their fair share of business. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question.
Senator Keith Agaran.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So, Ag Chairwoman, my question really has to do with the County of Maui amended our charter in this last election to allow creation of a county Department of Agriculture. Has anyone from the county been in contact with your department to talk about, you know, how they're going to structure this new department and how that's going to fit in with the overall agricultural plans for the state and for the counties? Because I think there was some, before the election, there was some caution about whether or not this change would actually add to issues that and challenges that farmers face. So has your department been in contact with anyone from the county?
We have not been contacted by Maui County since that ballot initiative passed. So the last contact we had was we submitted testimony to Maui County on two issues. One was a county Department of Agriculture, where we expressed concerns. We just wanted to make sure that that there was no complications, unintended consequences arising by the county Department of Ag's functions, complicating what we are required to do by statute or by federal cooperative agreement. And the second time we testified was, it was concerning pesticide and fertilizer regulation for the county of Maui, and we had strong concerns about that. But other than that, the only communication that I've had with the Maui Council was on hemp, and also about opportunities to get updates on ag production, because HCNS went out of business, and then you know, now there's a lot of activity happening with Mahi Pono. So those are the issues that have risen to our office from the county. We can reach
beyond the county. Beyond the county, though, what about from Maui farmers, whether from the Farm Bureau or from the Farmers Union or unaffiliated farmers, in terms of how they're envisioning this new department will be functioning? I mean, I think at some point they were saying that this new department would be an advocate for farming, but you know, I don't think there's been any details yet about how they plan to do that.
The only communication that we've had with Farmers Union or Maui Farm Bureau has been regarding transportation issues due to the increase in rates by young brothers. And then also about funding opportunities for their annual meetings, if we could sponsor those type of activities. But since the ballot initiative passed in November, we have not received any kind of communication regarding the development of the county department. I will reach out to Maui Farm Bureau and Hawaii Maui Farmers Union United to see if how we can work with them to get a status on that situation.
Thank you. That would be appreciated.
Senator Moriwaki?
Aloha. Hi, Chair. I have a question going back to the loans. I know in the past we've talked about the loans and how you were trying to get that out. And I see that you've increased the number of loans for 2020, but they seem to be COVID related. Just wondering whether you have any performance reports on outcomes, not just the loans being given, but what have been the outcomes, for example, on sustainable production? Are we getting closer to doubling our production of food, or any other criteria that you used when you assess the impact of the loan?
Okay. So I will call two people. First, Dean Matsukawa, Ag Loan Division Administrator, to provide any information on what kind of communication or data he's receiving from the loan recipients. And then also Dr. Matthew Loke, who is our Ag Development Division Administrator and also our lead economist for the department. So maybe Dean first, followed by Matthew.
Hello, thanks for the question. We don't really actually look at outcomes as a general economic measure. We kind of look at the overall loans that we do provide. We did provide this year was especially challenging because of the COVID thing. A lot of the operation were just trying to survive, so we did a lot of loans that way. But we did do some type of economic development. We did a lava loan for this orchid industry to which would combine several orchid growers together that was affected by lava to restart the orchid industry on the Big Island. That was one. And the second one we did was the dairy loan to keep fresh milk production on Oahu Island going. So that we kind of look at it more on that type of scale, but we don't really measure the overall economic impact that the farm does do to the overall economy.
So for the criteria for when they're asking for the loan, what do you use to judge whether you're going to give this loan or not? Is there any criteria that does look at production or any kind of economic variables that you use?
We do look at that in the overall sense, but generally we're looking more at the credit underwriting standards on that basis more than the overall economic input, but we do keep that in mind. Like economic employment in the area, in the rural areas, and trying to maintain that.
So those questions aren't asked when you're giving out the loan, like how many jobs did it create, or what do you think that the outcomes will be if we gave you this loan in terms of economic development or food production?
We do ask how many jobs they anticipate having, and we do ask for projections on economic, on their revenues and expenses in the area.
But that's not used to assess them as they go along on that loan, or what the end product is of that loan that you gave them.
Correct. Yeah, we do look at the ag purpose and that type of thing, but we don't look at it that heavily on the economic development of the whole area. Would not be a criteria.
I'd like to add to what Dean said is when the application for the loan comes before the Board of Agriculture, there's been in the presentation by the loan division information about why they need capital to expand. So we've given loans to producers that are doing well at a certain scale, but they have an opportunity to buy property abutting them so that they can, increase their production, their business. We've also provided and applied loans for farmers that, because of the pandemic, were focused on the tourists coming to the farm or buying direct from them as their major part of their market. And some of them have come in for financing to provide them cash flow so they can kind of redirect who their customer base is and adjust their marketing so that they can sell within the state or in their island or their community. Reinvent their business distribution model. So those are the kind of things that has been included in the loan presentation, and Dean can add more to that. But when the board looks at the financials that are confidential, we do pay attention to the projections of the next 3 years, how the loan monies will be applied, and we are very cognizant of the increase or the growth in their production value.
It seems to me that you have a captive audience when they come in asking for your assistance. That would be a good time to get them and steer them to looking at the future and economic development on their own business, but also to help the economy and in terms of food production. I'm just wondering why that's not used more when they are coming in asking for assistance.
Thank you for that suggestion. Matthew, would you like to comment or add to Dean's response?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Good afternoon, Senator Moriwaki. There are different ways to measure food production. We have been trying to come up with a food index using data that we have. And in measuring an increase in food production, we need a length of time so that we could measure it better. Because certain crops, especially the tree crops, takes a long time to bear fruits, anywhere between 5 to 7 years for example, macadamia nuts. So from our model to measure the increase in food production, we took a base year of 2010, and we took a grouping of different food products. In our model, we included farm seafood as basically aquaculture, beef, fresh vegetables, mac nuts, fresh fruits, eggs, honey, and taro. And based on that index of food items, we were able to establish that between 2010 and 2019, the value of commercial farm production for food increased by 89%.
How much?
89%.
89%?
Yeah, from 2010 to 2019. So at the macro level, we have been able to show some progress.
So, and this is going on an ongoing basis?
Yes. it's an ongoing
Yeah.
basis.
So is that part of the crop behind you, the tomatoes? Very nice.
Right. Tomatoes is one of our leading producers of fresh vegetables. So yeah, we're also looking at different products that has got export potentials. In a recent survey, we found that basil, of all things, contributed over $28 million in value, and 99% of basil is exported to the mainland. So we're very competitive in basil. We also undertaking a survey in mushrooms, because a lot of mushrooms is produced on the neighbor islands, and mushrooms has light quality. It's very popular in restaurants. We're thinking that with COVID-19 and we have issues with medicine, sorry, not medicine, but young versus shipping, we needed products that can be flowed easily by air. And mushroom qualifies for that because it's light and it has good value.
Is there any way that you could correlate, I mean, this is a discussion earlier with Dean and the chair of when you give out these loans and the kinds of products that they're producing or supposed to be producing, is there any way of having those kinds of same metrics of what they might be adding to the economy or to production, especially our sustainable food production?
That's a good question. Dean's approach is at the micro level, right? And the way that we measure food production is at the aggregate level. At some point, you would think that we would have micro-based macro measures. It could be challenging at times because if the loans given to different parties are small, the smaller farmers, then the return on investment will take a longer time to bear fruit. If bigger loans were given, then you will have a shorter time of success, and it's easier to measure that way. In government, our time frame is normally on a yearly basis, but the return on investment for farms may take many years. So there's some discrepancies over the time portion.
Senator Moriwaki, I'd like to add, we've been noticing that farmers that have been applying for loan assistance recently are trying to do value added with turmeric. So they're growing the turmeric and they're not only selling it fresh, but they're also selling it, converting it into a powdered form, a dry form as an ingredient, and also, eating ingredients for beverages. So those are some of the applications for loan assistance has come to us, and because based on the crop and how strong the demand has increased recently, they're coming in because they need more land to increase their production to capture that market.
You know what, Dawn? Maybe if the department can respond in writing to some of these questions, so we can move the briefing along.
Okay,
Thank
sorry
you.
about that.
No, Senator Nishihara.
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Phyllis. I have a number of questions. I got a meeting, I had a Zoom meeting with the Cattlemen's Council, yeah? And they were concerned about the spittle bug, especially affects the ranching operation. So how is that going along?
The department has assisted with funding the spittlebug research and outreach program. We're entering into a third contract for funding. I know that the industry had in the last session, asked for $1 million appropriation to control the spittle bug. But we recently awarded maybe about roughly, give or take, $350,000 to the University of Hawaii Extension Service to continue the work to help control the spittle bug. So we used our special funds from cargo fee for biosecurity and pest control, and we have, that's going to be our third contract. So I think with this third contract of support for two-line spittle bug, we're close to the $1 million mark, because the two previous contracts were about the same or maybe a little bit less.
Yeah, because talking to the Cattlemen's Council, I think they were looking at maybe they needed another 600,000 or something.
So originally the request last fiscal year was for that amount, but it wasn't within our means. So what we told them to do was if we can afford to provide this much funding, and then if they weren't able to get anything from the state through legislative appropriation, then to keep in touch with us and come back, and then we would see how much of additional funds we could support to keep the project going.
Yeah, I think they were looking also to see if they could get some federal funding. Also, there's two jails that do food production, agriculture production, WAM-AEN and Kulani. So, are you working with the public safety on that to see if they could ramp up their food production so they could provide food to their people there?
We have been very briefly, casually in conversation with them, maybe a couple times. One of the conversations was actually centered around the juvenile detention facility. I met the gentleman at some kind of ag function, and he just wanted me to know that he's got this project going, and that he'd like to at least make that connection. I think for us, we can continue to reach out to them, but the last times that we did talk with anyone regarding the prison food production was that they were trying to meet the food safety requirements to do from their farm to outside of the prison, and so but we haven't heard anything on an ongoing basis from that. But I know that was the one of the next steps for them, where they were trying to get information and training on how they could meet the food safety or good agricultural practices requirements, so that they could do that next jump from farm to table. Yeah, we do have staff that is involved in good agricultural practice certification, but we work together with the University Extension Service because they rely on them to train the farmers.
Yeah, I've got two more quick questions. Did DLNR transfer the land to DOA, the farmland?
In our report, all of the Act 90 land transfers yes, they were from DLNR.
They turned it over. Okay, and the last thing I have is, I had a Zoom meeting with Commitment of Schools, and they said that I guess part of their plans is to do farming operations, or do more of that. Have they had any discussion with you folks?
Yes, Senator De La Cruz made the introduction, so we, between and during the tail end of the last session, we've been in better communication. My intention was to continue the communication with them. Now we know who the point person is, that we can send information about any kind of training or farm agricultural grant opportunities. And so we know who to contact at Kamehameha schools to get the information to their farmer lessees.
Chair, I have just one additional question, real quick. Have you had any discussions with the military as far as providing Hawaii farm foods to them?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part of the question.
The military, have they made any contact with you folks to see if how they, you folks could assist them in through the farmers providing more food to the commissaries?
No, we have not been contacted by the military. I think the procurement for commissary business is by bid. So, but we have not been in communication with the military. Our focus for over a year now has been trying to get information between the state institutions, so HHSC, DOH, because they have the hospital in Kaneohe, and DOE. And I forgot to mention to Senator Kidani, but last December, Deputy, myself, and our ledge coordinator did go to Kauai, and we spent the day there to see their farm-to-state activities. So we went to the community hospital there, we walked the kitchen, and we also met with Department of Education complex director or superintendent. He retired though, unfortunately. So we spent a day on Kauai just trying to see the success of their farm to school, farm to hospital, farm to state.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Senator Kanuha.
Thank you, Chair. Aloha, Phyllis. Aloha, Director. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Everybody else. You said earlier that there were 11 positions that you were waiting for approval. Which ones were those?
Oh, I'm sorry. We had sent 9 positions to go for approval. We're waiting for 1 more, and then we have 11 in the queue. So what I mean by 11 in the queue is we're going to be submitting it to BNF for consideration. So they are irrigation positions, they're plant quarantine inspector positions, and then also I think pesticide positions.
Okay, no, the reason I was asked, I was kind of going into, I had a few questions on the coffee leaf rust and, a lot of pests that are affecting the coffee industry. Senator Nikihara brought up the spittle bug. The impacts to, the ag producers, especially in the district that I represent, Kona, have been pretty devastating recently. And, I just wanted to see if the department is appropriately prepared to prevent, especially CLR from affected and unaffected areas in the state. How prepared are you guys? And I know you kind of went into the different state agencies that you're working with to look at the affected, how it's affecting the coffee industry. But how prepared are you guys for this?
I believe that we're looking at maybe 3 or 4 more inspector positions within the plant industry. We're also working on getting a plant pathologist position to to get approval. And all of those positions would be supportive with monitoring, surveying, plant diseases and pests. And so we've already started that process. And we're in communication to possibly use some of our special funds to support outreach, because with the extension service, I have been told that they're applying for federal money, but there's a matching requirement. So extension doesn't have the ability to have matching funds. So before the end of Mayor Kim's term, I was in communication with Diane Lay, and we're trying to see what the county could come up with, and what the department could also contribute for coffee leaf outreach.
No, thank you. And that's exactly was going into my next question of how much money do you anticipate expending to provide adequate outreach materials for the coffee farmers and the growers?
So we are providing in-kind contribution to USDA ARS. Lisa Keith, she had asked for some in-kind matching contribution. I think as far as the dollar amount for coffee leaf rust outreach, depending on what the county's contribution would be, and private sector's contribution, because the industry is, very proactive. They're willing to contribute too. So I think the dollar range was anywhere from 55,000 up to 85,000. That was the number that I last heard.
Okay, and also going into some of the maybe the fungicides that I think you're going through some type of approval process. With same thing like with coffee berry borer and some of the subsidies that you provided to the farmers. What type of cost, or is there a plan for help to implement a mechanism to help subsidize some of those costs?
So we were approached by Representative Lowen because she was the original author of the coffee berry borer subsidy program, and so we did meet with her more than once, and our suggestion was that our suggestion was to maybe amend the existing coffee berry borer subsidy to allow it to include rust, coffee leaf rust, and that we know that we've been told not to ask for appropriations in this biennium. So the department has appropriated cargo fee money to support the coffee berry borer subsidy, and we believe that we can continue that subsidy for another year and maybe possibly double it to include applications for subsidy for topical systemic type fungicides that would apply also for the rust. So those are the kind of ideas we're having.
No, thanks, and that's good to hear that. I'm sure Nicole and I are talking to the same growers. So just, Chair, if okay, I have 2 more questions.
Okay, just keep in mind that in 20 minutes, we still have a few members' questions, but in 20 minutes, we have the next.
I'll send more questions to you later on, but in terms of the ag innovation loan for, the drone to spray Botanigard, can you just shortly elaborate on that? How much the loan amount, kind of the program rollout for that, and how they, do they help other farmers, or is it just one farmer that's using that on their own?
Okay, so we'll call Dean Matsukawa to discuss that loan.
It was a micro loan, a $25,000 loan for a commercial drone to do the spraying. It was intended as a service to help other farmers, but he is a coffee farmer also, so he is starting it out first on his own farm, and then we'll slowly take on additional clients.
Okay, that's good to hear, and I'll follow up with you guys afterwards, but for the answers, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Senator Inouye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Good to see you.
Hi.
Just one striking figure that shows up on Table 13 on the overtime expenditure summary regarding AGR 132, the veterinarian laboratory, under not the general funds, but under the other federal funds, there's a striking overtime percentage of 811.1% in 2020. What was all that about? Was there something developing in veterinarian industry?
Dr. Maeda, can you answer Senator Inouye's question regarding the overtime?
Hi. Overtime for, was it the veterinary laboratory?
Yeah, under the P funds.
Under the federal funds?
Other federal funds.
Our cooperative agreements with the USDA involve surveillance testing for different animal diseases and also for investigation type of work. And unfortunately, right now, we have a vacancy in a position of a veterinary officer for the Oahu, Kauai area. So what we have now is our lab director actually, who has experience doing the livestock veterinary medical officer work, and other veterinarians actually within the division are having to fly around, and we have to send them out to do this kind of work that happens. And so the cooperative agreement provides for that money, for the testing, for the overtime, because it does become overtime in a lot of these additional trips that they have to do.
Okay, and you're planning on filling the position?
Is that the position that we discussed, the VMO two?
Yes, the VMO.
And that position is covered by federal funds?
Is that the
G fund.
There's a G fund. We are requesting that we're using general fund savings to trade off and fund the position that was defunded, and that's a veterinary medical officer.
Oh, okay, so having said that, then because of the rotation, lack of personnel, I guess, going to neighbor islands, so you had a lot of overtime. Okay, that was a striking figure because 811% was kind of outstanding.
Yeah.
And then you have a position base salary that was not there. You have it in this upcoming budget for 69,000. So you're adding one position then out of that fund.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Senator Favela.
Thank you. One of them is the devil weed eradication. I'm not sure. How is that?
Okay. I'd like to call Becky Azama up. Becky, can you answer Senator Favela's question about devil weed?
I'm sorry. Hi. Could you repeat the question, please?
I just wanted to know what is the, for the devil weed, are we having, containing it, or is it still spreading towards the local area? I'm not sure.
I'm sorry. I understand that it's continuing to spread, and it's under consideration for biological control.
Can you explain to Senator what you mean by biological control?
Okay, so I believe it's Australia. So I'm going to ask Darcy Oishi because he has the contacts, but there's a biocontrol agent in Australia that is being considered, and Darcy is working with those scientists there. So Darcy.
Yeah, so we're trying to bring import in a predator, a natural predator,
Yeah.
to this pest.
The only reason why I'm bringing it up is because I know not long ago, they kind of found out how the devil weed got into certain areas in that area. And I know at one time, the military was assisting you guys, I think. And I just wanted to know if they're still cooperating and working with you guys, or they left you guys hanging and doing everything you guys self.
Is that a Darcy question?
Yes, I can answer some of these questions. Darcy Oishi, Acting Manager, Plant Pest Control Branch. Thank you for posing this question. Devil weed is continuing to spread. We are continuing to work with Oahu Army Natural Resources Program. They are looking at, we've been in the process of ongoing discussions for the Army to support biocontrol efforts. Initially, it was going to be a combination effort between Hawaii Department of Ag, Forest Service, and Army, and funding the project through the Research Corporation of the University of Hawaii. However, because of the pandemic and loss of positions, it's likely that HDOA will still have a part in coaching the project along and ensuring all the testing is done properly. But because of the loss of capacity, we will not be able to directly assist in the heavy lifting to get the testing and evaluation done. But we are continuing to keep track of that project. And no, the military has not left us high and dry. They've actually been very good in terms of supporting the work on this week.
Okay, thank you. So just one more. Sorry, I wasn't talking in the mic earlier, that's why you couldn't hear me. So sorry if you guys couldn't hear me. The other one is a CIP projects that is affected by the decade-long controversy over the water rights, Central Maui and East Maui. How is that going?
Thank you, Darcy. Brian or Kirk, would you want to answer Senator Favela's question about the East Maui project?
Can I ask to have the question repeated? He's asking about.
And if he can put his camera on.
Brian, can you put your camera on?
Oh, sorry, I thought I clicked it.
Okay.
It won't go on. It won't go on.
Maybe he doesn't have a camera on his laptop.
No, I do. I don't. It won't go on.
He's blinking it.
Okay, just keep
So
it
that's
going
okay. then. So yeah, so I just wanted to know what was the long controversy of the water rights from Central Maui versus East Maui. I just wanted to know what was the status.
Is the dispute of the water, is that affecting the three projects that we're working on East Maui?
No, the irrigation system is at for East Maui it's all part of the East. I guess the sources are similar or same, but it's not part of this watershed. That's my understanding. It's primarily the, I guess the Hawaiian homestead portion of where it takes off. It's not a Department of Agriculture irrigation system.
Okay, so I just wanted to know because we're having, I guess, a lot of problems with the water not getting to the people that need it for agriculture. So I just wanted to know if you guys knew anything on that whole CIP project.
Not that I'm aware of, but I can definitely look into it for you.
Yeah, please, if you can. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Sorry about the camera.
All right. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I just had a question, but Senator Kanuha, why don't you state your question and they can follow up in writing?
Yeah, it was basically if we knew any about the economic impact of CLR to our coffee industry, if we had an estimate of, if it does expand and spread without proper, without the full extent of trying to prevent the spread, what's the total economic impact? So that's kind of the question I have.
Okay, just briefly, we'll follow up, but, theoretically, it could impact 80% of the production. That's what we've read on the books. But we'll follow up with more details.
Thank you.
Okay, and then what I wanted to find out is, as part of your strategy, one of the things that you have not mentioned is an export strategy or a goal for exports, because when we go back to sugar and pineapple, those were all export crops, and even though we're talking, it could be value added, it could be value crops, high value crops. I'm not sure if that's something that you guys can take a better look at. I think Sharon's shop is probably quite strategic, but I'm not sure of her goals, because that's where the money is at, and that's how we're going to be able to actually afford sustainability, because sustainability itself is not necessarily revenue generating, but those export crops will help bring in the margins we need to invest in sustainability. So if you guys can take a look at that. When we went to Australia, they told us that the sustainability was a priority, but by exporting, they could pay for biosecurity, they could pay for infrastructure, they could pay for a lot of other things because of the revenue generated from value added and export crops. So I just hope that that's something that the department takes a little more effort in increasing the amount of exports that we have, and may it be value added crops or value added products.
So Senator, we recently got approval to do that survey that was funded by the legislature through NASC. And I'll check with Matthew. I don't know if Matthew can answer
No,
right
but
now.
you can.
But I think we part of the survey was questions relating to asking the farmers about export opportunities.
Yeah, but it's not just the department cannot just be in a reactive mode, reacting to what farmers say. Looking at the abilities and the potential of Hawaii and everything that it includes, what should be our goals, and then we have to work toward that. I don't think just asking the farmer what you need and just limiting ourselves to doing those things are enough. It needs to be a lot more proactive and strategic at a higher level, and then we can build upon that. So
we'll get back to you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, what we'll do is we'll start probably the next info briefing at 2:50 since it's been since 12:30. You've been here for almost 2 hours, so thank you very much.
Okay.
So adjourn, and we'll start at 2:50. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
You're going to do judiciary, no?
Thank you.